Hey guys, tonight we drift into a world where dawn unfurls over the Nile in languid ripples of golden light, and sleek silhouettes slip between papyrus reeds. You trudge past clay huts at the water's edge as village cats, lean bodies tapered with silent grace, prowl for breakfast and mischief. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let us know where you are and what time it is where you're listening. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step onto the sandy bank, toes sinking into damp granules scented with river mud and early jasmine. A faint mist coils above the water, curling around the prow of a wooden boat as an oarsman drills into the glassy surface. Beside you, a tabby's whiskers tremble against your palm, hunting for invisible mice in the twilight. You probably won't survive this without at least one scratch or startled mew, but that's part of the charm. As the sun yawns, felines stretch along mud brick walls, their eyes like polished carnelian beads, reflecting the first rays. Cats have been Egypt's cherished companions since at least 2000 BCE, when tomb paintings began honoring their presence in everyday life. You slide a hand through soft fur, marveling at how these creatures shaped human fortunes, not just predators of grain-devouring rodents, but living talismans protecting harvests. Historians still argue whether cats were first domesticated for their purring companionship, or primarily for rodent control, but either way, they quickly slinked into hearts and homes alike. In the hush before market chatter, the air holds the thrum of river life, a cargo barge gliding downstream, fishermen haggling over tilapia, and the distant clang of a potter's wheel. A calico, boasting ivory-tipped paws, darts into a trader's stall. You watch it scatter clay pots in a beautiful chaos pots that an artisan will later mend, muttering about cats' divine sense of humor. Fringe rumor has it, some Egyptians believed cats could commune with the Ba, their spirits crossing between mortal and divine planes. You crouch, fascinated, as the calico pauses to regard you with solemn eyes. Are you offering a treat, or is it testing your soul? Your sandals leave wet footprints in the finger-thick silt as you follow a procession of villagers bearing baskets of dates. Cats flit in and out of your periphery. There's one with striped flanks perched atop a low tomb, surveying the dawn like a silent sentinel. You inhale the spice of cumin roasting in clay bowls and the briny tang from the river's edge. Somewhere a child giggles, chasing a kitten that scoots under a donkey's belly. The donkey, unbothered, snorts each time the kitten's tail flicks against its flank. Morning unfolds slowly. By mid-dawn, traders unfurl linen awnings to shield against the sun's glare, and cats prowl beneath for any escaping crumbs. You pause at a stall where fishwives gut freshly caught catfish, tossing scraps to a gathering of whiskered onlookers. One black cat stands upright on hind legs, weight balanced, batting at fly-blue bodies hovering over entrails. It's a quirky sight. Cats often use their hind legs to bide attention, a behavior modern scholars liken to begging. Yet some fringe fables claimed it was an invitation for ancestral spirits to enter their bodies. Historians still argue whether that behavior predated domestication in Egypt, or emerged later as myth wove around feline habits. You roll up your linen sleeve to scratch a gentle rhythm on a tabby's head. The tabby purrs, a vibration resonating through your fingertip and into your chest. Purring is perhaps the earliest lullaby. Cats practice healing frequencies in their vocal folds to soothe themselves and others. A mainstream fact: cats' purrs register between 25 and 150 Hz. Frequencies also known to promote bone growth. Who knew your friendly feline was also a tiny wellness guru? The sun now throws long rays across the mud bricks, warming ancient walls that have witnessed dynasties rise and fall. Shadows shorten and cats disperse, some slipping into storerooms to guard grain, others vanishing into wattle and daub huts alongside families. You stand alone in a courtyard, chest rising in a slow, steady rhythm, listening to the gentle slap of sandals on hard-packed earth. The village is alive but hushed, as if holding its breath to honor these feline sentinels. You follow a sleek Siamese-like cat across a narrow wooden bridge, over an irrigation channel. Drops fall in rhythmic plinks, echoing like a distant metronome. The cat pauses at the channel's edge, tail curved like an Egyptian arch, peering at a writhing fishtail. You dare not disturb, savoring the stillness. This moment, pre-dawn chill, feline focus. The ancient river flowing onward feels suspended outside time itself. A crow caws overhead, and the village's song rises. Chatter, stalls opening, milkmaids calling. Yet the cats remain your silent guides, weaving through legs, imparting secrets of their secret life. As you follow their winding path back toward the Nile shore, you wonder, were they ever truly wild here, or were they born from the dust of sacred dreams? Historians still argue whether early Egyptians saw cats as guardians of the underworld, or simply as indispensable farmhands. Either way, dawn's first light falls on you and your whiskered companion, and the day begins. In the hush before market chatter, the air holds the thrum of river life, a cargo barge gliding downstream, fishermen haggling over tilapia, and the distant clang of a potter's wheel. A calico, boasting ivory-tipped paws, darts into a trader's stall. You watch it scatter clay pots in a beautiful chaos, pots that an artisan will later mend, muttering about cats' divine sense of humor. Fringe rumor has it, some Egyptians believed cats could commune with the bar, their spirits crossing between mortal and divine planes. You crouch, fascinated, as the calico pauses to regard you with solemn eyes. Are you offering a treat, or is it testing your soul? Your sandals leave wet footprints in the finger-thick silt as you follow a procession of villagers bearing baskets of dates. Cats flit in and out of your periphery. There's one with striped flanks perched atop a low tomb, surveying the dawn like a silent sentinel. You inhale the spice of cumin roasting in clay bowls and the briny tang from the river's edge. Somewhere a child giggles, chasing a kitten that scoots under a donkey's belly. The donkey, unbothered, snorts each time the kitten's tail flicks against its flank. Morning unfolds slowly. By mid-dawn, traders unfurl linen awnings to shield against the sun's glare, and cats prowl beneath for any escaping crumbs. You pause at a stall where fishwives gut freshly caught catfish, tossing scraps to a gathering of whiskered onlookers. One black cat stands upright on hind legs, weight-balanced, batting at fly-blue bodies hovering over entrails. It's a quirky sight. Cats often use their hind legs to bide attention, a behavior modern scholars liken to begging, yet some fringe fables claimed it was an invitation for ancestral spirits to enter their bodies. Historians still argue whether that behavior predated domestication in Egypt, or emerged later as myth wove around feline habits. You roll up your linen sleeve to scratch a gentle rhythm on a tabby's head. The tabby purrs, a vibration resonating through your fingertip and into your chest. Purring is perhaps the earliest lullaby. Cats practice healing frequencies in their vocal folds to soothe themselves and others. A mainstream fact, cats' purrs register between 25 and 150 Hz, frequencies also known to promote bone growth. Who knew your friendly feline was also a tiny wellness guru? The sun now throws long rays across the mud bricks, warming ancient walls that have witnessed dynasties rise and fall. Shadows shorten and cats disperse, some slipping into storerooms to guard grain, others vanishing into wattle and daub huts alongside families. You stand alone in a courtyard, chest rising in a slow, steady rhythm, listening to the gentle slap of sandals on hard-packed earth. The village is alive but hushed, as if holding its breath to honor these feline sentinels. You follow a sleek, Siamese-like cat across a narrow wooden bridge over an irrigation channel. Drops fall in rhythmic plinks, echoing like a distant metronome. The cat pauses at the channel's edge, tail curved like an Egyptian arch, peering at a writhing fishtail. You dare not disturb, savoring the stillness. This moment, pre-dawn chill, feline focus, the ancient river flowing onward, feels suspended outside time itself. A crow caws overhead and the village's song rises, chatter, stalls opening, milkmaids calling. Yet the cats remain your silent guides, weaving through legs, imparting secrets of their secret life. As you follow their winding path back toward the Nile shore, you wonder, were they ever truly wild here, or were they born from the dust of sacred dreams? Historians still argue whether early Egyptians saw cats as guardians of the underworld, or simply as indispensable farmhands. Either way, dawn's first light falls on you and your whiskered companion, and the day begins. A crow caws overhead and the village's song rises, chatter, stalls opening, milkmaids calling. Yet the cats remain your silent guides, weaving through legs, imparting secrets of their secret life. As you follow their winding path back toward the Nile shore, you wonder, were they ever truly wild here, Or were they born from the dust of sacred dreams? Historians still argue whether early Egyptians saw cats as guardians of the underworld, or simply as indispensable farmhands. Either way, dawn's first light falls on you and your whiskered companion, and the day begins. You slip through sandstone archways warmed by morning light, the air heavy with sweet myrrh and the echo of distant chanting. Faint incense smoke curls above carved limestone pillars, carrying the scent of burned date palms and crushed lotus blossoms. Here in Bubastis Cat City you're greeted by rows of alabaster statues crowned with golden ears, each carved in the likeness of Bastet, the lioness-turned-domestic goddess. Priests in white linen robes murmur prayers as worshippers kneel, fingertips grazing polished bronze bells. In every courtyard and corridor, temple cats weave between ankles, their coats shining like polished onyx and their eyes glowing with quiet intelligence. You probably won't keep count, but there are rumors of at least 700 cats living within these sacred precincts, each one tended as though it were living shrine and royal emissary. Cats aren't just adored here, they're deified. A mainstream fact. Bastet's cult rose to prominence during the Second Dynasty, around 290 BCE, evolving from a fierce lioness guardian into a gentler protector of homes and families. Statues dating back to this period show her tigress form, complete with rippling muscles and a watchful stare, a reminder that she once defended the king himself. Historians still argue whether Bastet was an amalgam of an older lioness deity, or a distinctly separate feline spirit formed by local worshippers. You step onto a mosaic-tiled floor, the tiles arranged in swirling patterns of deep blues and sun-baked yellows, suggesting the river's flow and the desert's dunes. A slender mithra bringer carries a silver bowl of fresh water to a courtyard lined with papyrus reeds. And a legion of cats laps in unison, tiny synchronized swimmers in fur coats. Fringe rumor insists that each cat here carries a sliver of Bastet's soul, allowing the goddess to walk among her people. Some claim to overhear the faint vibration of her purr when dozens of cats breathe together in devotion. As you move deeper, the high-pitched ring of tambourines and clacking of wooden clappers grows louder. Festival preparations for the upcoming Day of Whiskers are in full swing, an annual celebration when priests conduct a midnight procession carrying gilded cat effigies through moonlit streets. Temple acolytes braid garlands of jasmine and marigold for the felines, draping them across curved backs. You watch as a Ginger Tom swishes his tail dismissively at a string of flowers, but he allows himself to be adorned just enough to satisfy the ritual, without compromising his dignity. In a shadowed antechamber, you crouch beside a stone basin hewn with hieroglyphs, praising Bastet's mercy. An alabaster kitten stretches across the rim, one paw kneading the water until ripples lap the walls. The kitten's fur glistens with tiny droplets, each reflecting sunbeams like 1,000 miniature stars. You dip your fingers into the basin, feeling the chill against your warm skin. Fringe lore whispers that weeping for a lost cat and dipping tears into this basin will summon Bastet's favor, but learned scribes caution that we lack any contemporary evidence for that practice. Priests beckon you to follow a narrow corridor lined with votive offerings, miniature cat statues in bronze, painted pottery bowls shaped like feline faces, and leather pouches believed to contain protective feline hairs. You pass pilgrims kissing the toes of stone cat paws worn smooth by centuries of devotion. A bold tabby drapes itself over a step, staring up at you with regal disdain, as if granting permission to continue. You probably won't notice the creeping chill. The temple is built atop limestone bedrock that holds the night's cool even under blazing sun. Outside, chants grow louder. Bastet, Queen of Snakes, Lady of Love. Bronze cymbals clatter as worshippers dance in concentric circles around a massive statue of Bastet, standing atop a lotus pedestal. Her face is serene, feline eyes half closed as if caught mid-purr. The rhythmic stamping of sandals sends dust motes swirling like tiny galaxies caught in morning light. You find an elevated platform and settle beside an aging priest with a voice rough as papyrus. His words resonate. Our mothers and daughters, our caretakers of hearth and home, we honor you, Bastet, through these living breathers of your grace. A white cat leaps gracefully onto the statue's base, its presence drawing gasps. You lean forward as the priest raises a small honeycomb dipped in cinnamon oil, dripping sticky droplets into a shallow bowl. Cats converge, tongues slithering to taste the sweet mixture. Mainstream accounts note that Egyptians offered honey and milk to temple cats on high holy days, a testament to their deep affection. Yet historians still argue whether these offerings were regular ritual behaviors or later additions by Greek observers fascinated by feline worship. You close your eyes, letting the drum's pulse sync with your heart. Every vibration seems to hum through the temple walls, carrying prayers skyward. The scent of frankincense intensifies, layering under musk and dried date paste. Cats rub along your legs, their soft coats like whispers against your skin. A fringed tail claims a particular incense blend could induce prophetic dreams when inhaled in a feline sanctuary, but scribes caution that no surviving papyrus prescribes its exact ingredients. When the ceremony peaks, priests doff their linen hoods and bow low, while cats prance around them, tails high, as if orchestrating the climax. You open your eyes to countless pairs of glowing orbs, watching, silent participants in this ancient pageant. For a moment time seems porous, past and present merge as Bastet's essence feels tangible, drifting through every paw print, every flick of a tail. As the final symbol fades, worshippers begin to disperse, their voices soft and reverent. Sunlight floods the courtyard, warming stone and fur alike. Cats stretch, then scatter like living brushstrokes across the temple's open plazas. You stand, brushing temple dust from your linen, heart still thumping from the shared energy. Before you leave, you cup your hands to a small offering pot and drop 3 bronze cat figurines, one for protection, one for health, and one for fortune. The clink of metal echoes, a whispered promise that Bastet's sacred Purrs will follow you until you return. You slip into the cavernous granary just as dawn's warmth begins to seep through cracks in the sun-baked mud brick walls. The air here smells of stale barley and earthen sweat, as sacks of grain, wheat, barley and emmer are stacked in towering columns around you. You follow a narrow earthen alley between the sacks, the floor softened by centuries of spilled kernels underfoot. A low grumbling echoes as a handful of lean, musk-scented cats pad through the shadows, their ears swiveling at the faintest scurry. These are Egypt's unsung heroes, the granary mousers. You crouch beside a clay pot brimming with barley, fingertips brushing the bristled tail of a calico who's auditioning for the position of chief rodent wrangler. She pauses mid-tail flick, regarding you with emerald eyes, so intent you swear she's measuring your worth. You probably won't leave without at least one crumb in your hair, but that's half the fun. A fringe rumor claims that granary cats were once considered incarnations of the god Anubis, descended from jackal form to feline stealth, though no papyrus scroll confirms it. Historians still argue whether that belief was widespread or simply a fringe myth among grain merchants, hoping for supernatural pest control. The mainstream fact is plain. Egypt's 5 to 6 million bushels of grain needed constant protection, and cats delivered. Archaeological evidence shows cat skeletons in granary pits, dating back to the Old Kingdom, roughly 200 and 600 BCE, suggesting farmers co-opted local wildcats before domestic breeds evolved, all in service of preserving Egypt's bread and beer for the pharaoh and populace. A scholar debates to what extent this drove domestication. Did humans tame cats first for companionship, or solely to guard granaries? The truth may lie somewhere in the dusty space between desire and necessity. Ahead, a faint scratching leads you to a hidden corner behind stacked amphorae. A mottled tom, with a high, insistent mew, is engaged in a game of cat and mouse. Literally, beneath him, a plump jerboa skitters between earthen jars, its long hind legs whipping like miniature whips. You hold your breath as the cat springs, landing with velvet-padded paws that barely stir the dust. The jerboa bolts, whiskers quivering like tiny pennants, but the cat pivots mid-air, claws extended, and pins it in a duet of ancient choreography. You blink, and the tom swallows the prize whole, tail twitching in triumph. A granary overseer, sandal-clad and robed in coarse linen, approaches with a clay flask of sour milk. For the guardians, he says, pouring a few drops into a shallow bowl. You kneel beside him as cats assemble, bartering for titbits with twitching tails. One ginger cat hops onto his shoulder, bristles pricked like a miniature lion's mane. Fringe lore insists that if you drink sour milk in the presence of granary cats, you'll dream of hidden hoards of gold, but most scribes dismiss the story as later embellishment by Greek travelers. No original Egyptian text mentions it. Scholars still argue whether any ritualized offerings beyond milk and fish scraps ever took place in granaries. Your sandals tap against packed earth as you follow a procession of grain-laden porters emerging from the granary's southwest exit. Cats flank them like silent sentinels. Tabbies perched on shoulder blades, black cats weaving between calves, and slender white cats stalking beneath hunched backs. The aroma of barley mingles with hot sweat and donkey dung, a heady perfume of rural Egypt. You pause at a low doorway to watch a shaggy cat scale silk sacks of emmer, tail high, as if to announce his conquest. It hops down, landing beside you with a soft pat, whiskers brushing your ankle. A sudden rustle draws your gaze upward. Rats, fat and audacious, scuttle along rafters high above. The granary's reed and wood ceiling creaks under their weight. You tilt your head, marveling at the cat's discipline. They ignore lower prey in favor of these overhead marauders. A black and white kitten crouches for a leap, but hesitates, juggling endocrine tremors and strategic calculation. From your vantage, you count nearly 24 cats, organized like an elite rodent hunting platoon. It's amazing that these feline guards patrol without a single leash or human command. You recall the nighttime hunts beneath the moonlit desert from Section 2 there. Cats pursued cobras and jackals across dunes. Here in the granary's dim vaults, they pursue creatures half their size but equally cunning. The scope of their mission feels sacred. Without them, Egypt's grain would spoil, feeding nothing but vermin. You sip cool water from a goatskin waterskin, admiring how even a simple gulp seems sacred in this hallowed storehouse of life's staple. Fringe accounts claim that cats could sniff grain infested with weevils before the human nose detected spoilage, but that's more legend than verified fact. A sudden clatter, loose grain spilling, triggers a flash of motion. A sleek Siamese-like cat shoots forward, body flattened like a leaf on the wind, claws extended, whiskers forward. It pounces on a hidden rat, pinning it within a heartbeat. The rat squeaks its protest, but the cat's grip is unwavering. You exhale, feeling the tension release from your shoulders. That leap, a mixture of spring-coiled energy and pure feline precision, is the stuff of dreams. The overseer beckons you upstairs via a narrow ladder, carved from date palm wood. You climb, feeling the ladder creak beneath your weight, until you reach a lofted platform overlooking the granary floor. From this height, you observe rows of cats reclining on wooden beams, grooming one another with meticulous licks. Their purring resonates through the rafters, a soothing vibration that seems to slow your pulse. You probably won't nap here, but the lullaby of Purrs lulls you into a haze of comfort. Mainstream zoological studies confirm that group purring often synchronizes heart rates in social felines, fostering communal well-being. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptians recognized this as purposeful healing or simply admired the sound. A fringe whisper floats up. Some temple cats are loaned to rural granaries on rotation, their temple collars removed so they blend in with local breeds. When the harvest ends, they return, tails unmarked by collars but minds filled with new memories. Whether that actually happened is lost to time, but the idea speaks to the depth of feline integration in every Egyptian institution. You lean against a beam, watching sunlight prick through wall slits, slicing the dust-laden air into columns of light. Cats dip in and out of those columns like living brushstrokes, brushing against straw, wood and stone in silent devotion. The overseer returns with a small basket of dried fish bones. He snaps one in half, tossing the fragments into open paws. A striped cat deftly catches a bone mid-air, crunching it with audible satisfaction. Beside you, the ginger Tom from earlier rubs his head against your elbow, purring as if granting you a backstage pass to the granary's secret life. You lean in and whisper, "Thank you for your service." He blinks slowly. A cat's kiss. That blink is a gesture of trust, a confirmation that you are now part of this centuries-old alliance between humans and cats. As you descend the ladder, you feel the weight of gratitude settle in your chest. These granary cats are more than mousers. They're silent partners in civilization, ensuring that Egypt's ovens never cease, that temples are fed, and that the pharaoh's table overflows. You step back into the morning sun, the granary's cool gloom retreating behind you, but the memory of padded paws and rippling purrs stays lodged in your mind. You walk away, carrying a small pouch of barley, an offering to the next feline you meet. With each step you hear that distant comforting purr echoing, and you remember, Every crumb saved is a quiet victory in the secret life of ancient Egyptian cats. You slip through a gilded arch into the pharaoh's palace courtyard, where the morning sun glints off polished limestone and gold leaf. Marble columns rise like silent sentinels, their surfaces etched with hieroglyphs, celebrating triumphs you haven't even lived yet. Here, amidst the hush of royal splendor, kittens wearing tiny golden collars dance across mosaic floors, weaving between sandalwood incense burners and footstools draped in lapis lazuli cloth. You probably won't remain as composed as a vizier. These kittens are relentless in their playfulness, and one is already pouncing on the hem of your robe as you step forward. A mainstream fact. Egyptian royalty prized cats so highly that Queen Hatshepsut's tomb paintings depict her beloved felines perched on low thrones beside her, a testament to their elevated status. Those pictographs, dating to around 1470 BCE, show cats with upturned tails, a symbol of affection, loyal companions in both life and afterlife. Historians still argue whether these royal cats were selectively bred for specific traits or merely spoiled from birth. But either way, their pampering exceeded even the most lavish human courtiers. A slender grey kitten leaps from a marble pedestal, belly fluffy as a summertime cloud, and lands at your feet. It bats your sandal with kittenish curiosity, eyes wide like sunlit amber gems. Fringe rumour suggests these palace-born cats once learned to mimic the pharaoh's voice, mewing on command to entertain dinner guests. But no surviving scroll records such an elaborate trick. You crouch to scratch behind its ears and nearly lose your balance as a second kitten darts between your knees, whiskers brushing your shin like tiny feather dusters. The palace cats roam freely, but they're under the discreet supervision of royal animal keepers, young boys and girls who treat them with the deference reserved for minor princes. One gilded cloak attendant offers you a silver bowl of fresh fish morsels, meant as tribute to the feline's refined palates. You dip a finger into the bowl and taste the sweet brine of river perch. It's unexpectedly delicious, though you probably shouldn't be sharing cat cuisine at court. A quirky aside, palace cats allegedly refuse to eat any fish not caught by the royal fisherfolk, turning their noses up at commoners' scraps. Modern scholars still debate whether that was genuine feline finickiness or court gossip, designed to enhance the mystique of royal tables. You follow a procession of courtiers past columns, strung with garlands of lotus blossoms, where kittens scramble up noble women's skirts seeking anchor points. One kitten, the color of midnight, claws at your robe, leaving a few loose threads dancing like confetti. You stifle a giggle as a court musician, harp in hand, strikes a single plaintive note, trying to coax the felines into a graceful procession. The kittens answer with arpeggios of purrs and chirps, creating an accidental duet that leaves the musician blushing. In the grand hall, beams of alabaster light filter through stained glass windows, illuminating a low platform swathed in crimson cushions. 3 royal kittens recline there, each crowned with a miniature diadem of silver and carnelian. You approach reverently, minding your posture, as though standing before a pantheon. The smallest kitten yawns, revealing a set of needle-sharp teeth. Fringe lore claims that royal kittens' teeth were so prized that they were ground into powders for love potions, an idea modern veterinarians cringe at, and historians still argue whether any such concoctions ever existed beyond scandalous rumour. A dignified vizier leans in to whisper, "They are the pharaoh's secrets made flesh." You nod, though you're more interested in the way the golden tassels of your own cloak flop onto the cool floor. One kitten notices the tassel and pounces, sending you stumbling across a bronze basin filled with perfumed water. You right yourself just in time, heart racing faster than a chariot in full gallop. The kitten skitters away with mock indignation, shoulders hunched, yowling in kittenly offense. You probably won't survive dinner without further feline interruptions, but you press on toward the next chamber, a mosaic-lined gallery where murals depict past pharaohs holding regal cats, as if they were handheld thrones. You pause to examine a particularly detailed scene. A cat seated atop a lion-headed sphinx, tail curled around the sphinx's mane. Mainstream scholars note that cats were often associated with protective sphinx figures, believed to guard against malevolent spirits. Historians still argue whether these feline sphinx pairings symbolized a fusion of local and Nubian religious traditions, or were purely artistic flourishes. As you move along the gallery, a procession of tiny silver bowls appears at your feet, each containing a different treat: dried figs, tiny fish, and bits of honeycomb. Palace groomer A woman with braided hair trailing peacock feathers kneels to present the bowls to a gathering of kittens. You stop to taste a fig, sticky juice coating your fingertips, before a ginger kitten edges between your knees, demanding your full attention. You scoop it into your arms, feeling its heartbeat against your elbow, a soft drum like a lullaby. The stray kitten scampers up your arm and perches on your shoulder, fur warm against your neck. Its weight is negligible, yet you feel suddenly important, like a pharaoh-worthy pedestal. You murmur to it, "You'll dethrone me yet," and it responds with a soft chirp that you swear translates as agreement. Fringe rumor insists that palace kittens' chirps formed a secret dialect only understood by the royal family. Modern linguists dismiss it as fanciful speculation, and historians still argue whether ancient Egyptians even recognized distinct feline vocalizations beyond purrs and meows. Suddenly, the palace gates clang open, and a cool breeze carries the call of distant market traders. The kittens lift their heads, ears pricked, tails flicking in synchrony. You realize your time in this feline utopia is fleeting. Soon you'll return to dusty streets and granary shadows. But for this moment, you are a silent co-ruler in a court of whiskers and padded paws. A quiet warmth spreads through your chest as a tuxedo kitten flops onto your lap, eyes half closed in contentment. You sit on a low cushion, allowing the kittens to claim you as their throne, feeling honored by their trust. The vizier steps forward and murmurs, "Even the mightiest pharaoh bowed to these creatures." You glance around at the mosaic floor, the gilded walls, and the kittens sprawled in blissful slumber. It feels absurdly perfect, like living inside a dream painted with platinum and cat fur. As you rise, you slip a small piece of honeycomb into the pocket of your cloak, an imperial souvenir. The kittens stir, noses twitching, but they don't awaken fully. They trust you to carry a piece of their palace into the wider world. You exit the gallery under a low lintel carved with the image of Bastet, wearing royal regalia, her head crowned with a sun disk and cow's horns. You duck beneath her watchful gaze, kitten threads still clinging to your robe. The palace doors close softly behind you, muffling the chime of distant temple bells. You step back into the courtyard where gardeners tend to flowering date palms, unaware that you've just shared an audience with the smallest royals of ancient Egypt. As you walk away, you feel the weight of that golden collar in your pocket, and the echo of purrs still vibrating in your bones. You probably won't forget this day, nor the way those kittens claimed your heart with mischievous swats and regal indifference. The palace recedes behind you, but the magic lingers, whispering that in ancient Egypt, even pharaohs knew to bow before a kitten's charms. You slip from the bustling palace into the cool hush of desert night, the sky a vault of glittering stars unspoiled by torchlight. Sand crunches underfoot as you follow a lithe sable cat, whose emerald eyes catch moonbeams like scattered jewels. You trudge along an abandoned caravan route, the air scented with dry sand and distant wood smoke. A breeze stirs, whispering through date palms that line the faint trail, palms that sway as if bowing in reverence to your silent guide. You probably won't spot every quarry, but these desert cats know every whisper of movement. Ahead, the sable cat pauses atop a low dune, tail curved in elegant semaphore. Beneath its paws lies a coiled cobra, its hood flared like a cobra king's crown. Historians still argue whether Egyptian cats hunted venomous serpents by instinct or learned under human tutelage. But this Tom is no newcomer. He springs, lithe as liquid shadow, and the snake strikes, fangs gleaming, before the cat executes a near-perfect backflip, evading poison with feline finesse. Fringe rumor insists that some desert cats carry immunity to venom, but modern scholars doubt any genetic trick. Still, locals swear the cats survive bites that fell lesser beasts. You crouch behind a wind-sculpted rock, heart pounding like a war drum. Another cat, a pale sandy queen, pads into view, whiskers twitching. She addresses a scuttling jerboa, pouncing with soft thuds that barely disturb the dust. Your senses sharpen with every encounter: the hiss of serpents, the patter of small rodents, the distant jingle of camel bells as a lone merchant approaches with a laden beast. Moonlight drapes the caravan's canvas like a ghostly veil, and you slip past without notice, guided by the cat's silent signals. Under a crescent moon, you follow the sable tom across shifting slopes. Each paw print is a syllable in an ancient script, telling you where to wait, when to move. You taste the metallic tang of anticipation, cold desert air mingling with the lingering warmth of midday sun buried in the sand. This stretch of dunes was once the lifeline between Nubia and Memphis. Now it hosts this nightly ballet of predator and prey, a mainstream fact. Archaeological digs along similar routes have uncovered cat bones in burial pits, suggesting nomadic tribes revered these hunters, perhaps crediting them with safe passage across hostile sands. You pause as the sable tom halts on a crest. Below, dangerously near, a caravan guard hears movement, his torch beam sweeping. You freeze, heart lodged in your throat, as the light flickers across shifting dunes. But the cats melt into the sand's patterns, vanishing like phantoms. Fringe tales claim desert cats could render themselves invisible by crouching low and aligning their coats with the dunes. Historians still argue whether this was mythic exaggeration or simple camouflage admired by storytellers. The guard's torch passes, and you exhale. You follow your guide into a ravine, where the air chills, as if entering a catacomb. Here, a family of sand cats, smaller than their Nile cousins, stalk mole rats through tunnels beneath sun-baked stones. You crouch at the ravine's mouth, watching their precise teamwork. One cat digs, another stands guard, a third pounces with calculated timing. It feels like watching a miniature army, each member flawless in its role. Mainstream zoology notes that sand cats possess thick fur on their paws to protect against hot sands, a perfect adaptation to this environment. A sudden rumble echoes, the distant rumble of hooves, as camels trudge toward an oasis. You cannot yet see. The sand cats vanish into crevices, tails flicking farewell. Your sable guide leads you uphill toward a plateau. You climb, breathing hard as muscles burn, until you reach a rock outcrop, overlooking a shimmering waterhole, framed by palm thickets. At its edge, cats congregate to drink, ghostly shapes reflected in liquid silver. You step closer, careful to keep low. The cats don't flee, they recognize kinship in your presence. Fringe lore whispers that these nocturnal gatherings served as secret councils, where elder cats shared moon knowledge through silent gestures. Historians still argue whether any human witnessed such councils, or whether they belong purely to myth. You kneel among them, water lapping at your fingertips as you cup a drink, each sip sips of minerals and moonlight. Cats lap beside you, their purrs a soft chorus that resonates in your chest. Above, the Milky Way stretches like a river of stars, and you lie back on warm stone. The cats circle you, forming a living wreath of silent guardians. You breathe in desert stillness. Heart sinks to the rhythm of purrs and lapping water. In that moment, you feel the desert's pulse, and the secret life of its cats entwined. A silent partnership older than any empire. As you settle into the cool night, the cats stand sentinel, ancient, watchful, and utterly at peace. You slip into a dimly lit chamber, where flickering oil lamps cast long, dancing shadows against ochre-stained walls. The air smells of rendered fat and exotic resin, cypress pitch mixed with cedar crackling softly as it drips into clay saucers. Here in this candlelit workshop, artisans transform living cats into eternal companions of the afterlife, an act as tender as it is macabre. You probably won't keep a straight face amidst the solemn chant of embalmers, but that's okay. Your job is to bear witness to their sacred craft. A procession of ivory-handled tools lies arrayed on a linen-draped table. Bronze scalpels honed to surgeon's precision, reed brushes, dusted with natron, and reed baskets filled with fine linen strips. A tabby cat, eyes half-lidded in trance, lies on a low stone slab, its sleek body already swelling with pomegranate oil to ease the drying process. Mainstream accounts show that ancient Egyptians began mummifying cats around 700 BCE, using specialized workshops near tomb complexes in Saqqara, Beni Hassan. They treated feline remains with the same painstaking care reserved for human nobility, believing cats would guide their owners through duet, the underworld. Historians still argue whether this practice emerged from domestic reverence or was imported from earlier canine and jackal mummification rituals. But either way, the workshops hum with devotion. You crouch beside a master embalmer, his linen-smocked hands slipping inside the cat's body cavity to remove internal organs. You feel your stomach twist, yet there's a solemn grace to his motions, like a ritual dance. Fringe rumor whispers that some embalmers whispered blessings in the cat's ear before closing the incision. offering whispered prayers of safe passage. No papyrus scroll has been found detailing those words, but modern forensic studies of feline mummies show signs of deliberate neck flexion, suggesting embalmers took great pains to position cats for eternal comfort. A surge of heat washes over you as the kiln in the workshop's corner breathes life into multicolored alabaster jars, filled with fragrant oils, myrrh harvested from Punt, juniper resin from Sinai, and a rare blend of cinnamon imported from far-off kingdoms. You inhale deeply, the aromas layering into an incense-like haze. Below, assistants dab the cat's fur with a mixture of crushed limestone and natron salt, drawing out moisture until the coat stiffens like preserved silk. Mainstream chemistry analyses confirm that natron made up about 70–80% of the embalming mixture, ensuring microbial inhibition and structural preservation. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians discovered this through trial and error, or inherited the formula from secret priestly traditions. You shift your weight, and hear the soft murmur of workshop apprentices down the hall, chanting Bastet, carry us home. A fringe tale claims apprentices recited that refrain in unison, to imbue each feline with communal spirit, but most scholars dismiss it as later romanticism. Yet the echo ricochets against the stone, making your heart beat in time with it. You probably won't resist humming along, even if your voice cracks. A slender hand offers you a small linen-wrapped parcel. Inside lies a mummified kitten, barely the size of your palm, its paws delicately bound with dyed threads of red and green. You hold it gingerly, fingertips brushing ancient fur, an intimate connection across millennia. Legend insists these tiny votive mummies were sacrificial offerings to temples, each purchased by pilgrims seeking Bastet's favor. Evidence from tomb excavations shows cat cemeteries near temple precincts held thousands of such votive burials, an astonishing mainstream fact demonstrating the scale of devotion. Historians still argue whether these cemeteries were state-run or private enterprises by entrepreneurial priests, but either way, the ground here held more feline souls than living villagers. A hollow knock echoes through the workshop as a temple courier arrives with a wooden crate sealed in beeswax. Inside, rows of bronze cat statuettes, each hollow to contain mummified remains. The embalmers will slide feline bones and bits into these metal shells, then solder them shut for shipment to pilgrimage sites. Fringe whisperers claim that some statuettes contained only hair clippings or eggshell fragments, cheating unwary worshippers, an idea modern conservators find plausible when they X-ray suspicious artifacts and discover empty cores. Historians still argue whether such forgeries were widespread or isolated scams preying on the faithful. You step outside into a courtyard where the sun has climbed higher, blazing on white limestone floors. Across the courtyard, cat-shaped stelae stand sentinel, their hieroglyphic inscriptions promising sweet dreams and safe passage. You probably won't have nightmares after this. These symbols exude a comforting reverence, but your skin prickles as a black cat weaves around your ankles, guiding you toward a low bench. You sit and the cat settles on your lap, purring mechanically. Its fur feels unnaturally stony, a reminder that this creature has long since crossed into the land of shades. Nearby, an assistant ladles warm porridge of barley and honey into shallow bowls, offering them as an aftercare meal for newly unwrapped cat mummies destined for transport. The idea of feeding a corpse sounds absurd, yet fringe scholars argue the practice symbolized sustaining the cat's its life force in the afterlife. No scroll explicitly confirms this, but residue analyses of transport crates reveal traces of porridge-like mixtures. Mainstream archaeologists debate whether that suggests ritual food offerings or practical cushioning to protect fragile relics. You lean forward as the master embalmer returns, palette-stained linen in hand. He points to faint feather imprints on a cat mummy's shroud. Evidence of ritual plumes placed atop remains before burial. He whispers, "These feathers guide their souls upward." You trace the delicate pattern and imagine spectral wings lifting the cat's spirit skyward. Historians still argue whether feather use was a widespread custom or limited to high-status temple mummies, but the motif recurs in tomb art from Theban necropolises to coastal delta graves. As the sun's heat intensifies, you exhale a shaky sigh. The workshop's chants fade, replaced by a gentle breeze carrying the distant hum of market crowds. You rise, brushing pine resin from your fingers, heart heavy yet strangely uplifted. These embalmers with soot-darkened faces and steady hands are custodians of continuity, preserving not just cats, but the belief in bonds that transcend death. You step through a carved doorway into blinding sunlight, the world outside bustling with life's chaos. But the scent of natron and cedar lingers in your nostrils, and you feel the hum of Purrs echoing in your chest. You sling the linen parcel back into your satchel, a small mummified kitten, a silent testament to ancient faith. As you walk away, you carry with you the secret life of these embalming chambers, a place where tender hands wove flesh to stone, and mortal cats became eternal companions under a desert sun. You slip through the bustling docks of ancient Pelusium, salt spray mingling with the tang of fish guts and tarred ropes. Moonlight glints off the wooden hull of a Phoenician trader's vessel, its name etched in archaic script, the Canaan Star. Crews in striped tunics clamber up ladders, hauling crates of date honey and jars of scented oil. But you're here for something far more precious, cats destined for foreign courts. You probably won't sneak past the foreman without a well-timed yowl or two, but that's part of tonight's intrigue. A lean trader with a hooked nose leans down to inspect a coiled rope. You tiptoe beside him, inhaling the sharp scent of pine pitch and the faint whiff of basil from a nearby cargo basket. Under his arm, woven reed crates hold panicked kittens, ears flattened and eyes as wide as the full moon. A fringe rumor insists Phoenician smugglers taught cats to feign illness to secure softer crates and gentler handling, though no surviving merchant logs confirm the trick. Historians still argue whether such feline charades were intentional training or merely exaggerated tales spun by awestruck sailors. A mainstream fact is clear. By the late 1st millennium BCE, Phoenician ships routinely carried Egyptian cats westward as diplomatic gifts and exotic pets, prized in Greek and Tyrian courts for their elegant silhouettes. Archaeologists have recovered feline figurines in Carthage that mirror Egyptian models perfectly, suggesting direct contact and cultural exchange. Yet scholars still debate whether these figurines represent shipped living cats or simply imitated iconography carved from memory. You follow a rope ladder up the side of the ship, each rung oiled and worn smooth by countless voyages. The deck creaks beneath your sandals as you emerge into a lantern-lit expanse of coiled ropes, winches, and half-open hatches. Beneath one hatch, a murmur of mews rises like hidden music. You pry the lid and discover a litter of silver-furred kittens, tangled in silky raffia. You cup one in your hands. Its fur feels like desert silk, and its tiny heartbeat thrums against your palm. You probably won't get this far without at least one scratch, but you welcome the souvenir. A grizzled sailor approaches, tobacco pipe clamped between teeth. He squints at you, then at the kitten, and tips his head in wordless approval. You slip the kitten back into the crate and close the hatch, the lids snap echoing through the hold. Nearby, traders argue over the going rate. 7 golden drachmas per fully grown cat, 12 for the rare spotted breeds. Fringe gossip claims that certain Bohemian Greek poets paid triple for kittens, rumored to have been petted by the pharaoh himself, though contemporary economic records make no mention of such premiums. Scholars still argue whether these inflated prices reflect real demand or later romanticism by Hellenistic storytellers. You tread lightly toward the bow where a makeshift cat pen awaits, a low rail strung with linen drapes to keep cats calm during rough seas. Inside, cats of every hue pace the deck, ebony queens, tabby guards, and a fat calico whose dorsal striping resembles a lightning bolt. A gentle breeze ruffles the drapes, carrying the smell of brine and roasted chickpeas from a cook's galley. You watch as one tuxedo cat stretches luxuriously, dew-lapping its chin in a manner so regal you half expect it to demand a crown. A citrusy digression. Phoenician mariners often brined lemons and pomegranates as provisions, lending the sea air a heady perfume that mixed oddly with feline musk. You probably won't taste any until dinner, but imagining that blend makes you both hungry and uneasy. The cats, unfazed, lean into any available warmth: wooden planks, coil of rope, or a sailor's boot, and you wonder how they'll fare when waves rise. Above, the helmsman calls out a trimmed rope slack. You follow his gaze where a constellation of lanterns wink from the Egyptian shore, fading as the ship lists away. You feel a tug in your chest. These cats are leaving their homeland behind, crossing waters that once isolated them from foreign lands. Historians still argue whether Phoenician roots influenced early Mediterranean cat populations, or if later Roman trade sealed their fate. Genetic studies suggest a blend of Near Eastern lineages in modern European cats, but precise timelines remain elusive. Suddenly, a loose wave crashes against the hull, sending salty spray over your cloak. One startled cat leaps free of its crate, landing beside you with acrobatic flair. Its sapphire eyes lock onto yours, and you offer a steady hand. In a heartbeat, it nuzzles your palm, purring a sound so deep it rumbles in your bones. Fringe lore suggests that captains believed a purring cat calmed storms at sea, a superstition some sailors took to the mast, carving feline effigies into the beams. Contemporary maritime records make no reference, yet coastal communities still whisper prayers to cat-shaped votive statues for safe voyages. You probably won't stay long above decks. The captain's orders forbid stowaways. You slip down into the cargo hold to inspect the securing of crates. A thick coil of hemp, fragrant with tar, binds each crate closed, and small slits let fresh air circulate. You push your hand through one slit and stroke another kitten's ears. It blinks slowly, trusting the stranger's touch. A mainstream observation, proper ventilation was essential to prevent suffocation, and Phoenician traders were meticulous record keepers. Merchant manuals reference weekly crate inspections to ensure feline cargo survived long passages. Yet historians still argue how strictly these procedures were followed during high-stakes voyages. A distant shout comes from above. All hands set sail, and the ship's timbers groan as anchors are hoisted. You climb back into the moonlit deck, heart pounding with excitement. The sails unfurl like giant bats drifting into the night sky, and the ship begins to glide away from the familiar shoreline. The cats, now stirred by motion, gather along the rail, tails aloft, eyes reflecting starlight. You stand at the stern, wind tugging at your robes, watching their silhouettes merge with the hull's dark outline. As the Canaan star picks up speed, you feel the rhythm of wood and water sync with your breathing. The cats seem to sense the transition. One by one, they settle on coils of rope, passing heads and greeting before curling up like soft pillows. A fringe anecdote insists that crews traded gentle chin scratches for better salt rations, believing happy cats warded off sea serpents, though no lore mentions any monster sightings, averted by feline vigilance. Modern mythbusters debate whether the sea serpent legend itself owed its birth to misbehaving cats, causing hull tremors mistaken for monster movements. You probably won't witness every horizon, but this midnight departure is a moment frozen in time. The shores of Egypt slip beyond the curvature of the world, and ahead lies unknown ports where these cats will charm strangers with their silent grace. A mainstream truth, in centuries to come, Mediterranean courts will host Egyptian cats as symbols of wealth and wonder, setting the stage for their adoption across Europe. Yet scholars still argue how much of that spread occurred by official gift exchanges versus under-the-table smuggling runs like this one. You tuck your hands into your cloak, savouring the salty breeze and the quiet chorus of purrs. The ship's lanterns glow warm behind you, and the sea stretches vast and star-speckled before you. In this moment, suspended between two worlds, you understand why cats were worth every drachma and every clandestine risk. As you lean into the rail, a tuxedo cat brushes your shoulder, offering the night's final affirmation. You close your eyes, letting the gentle rocking lull you, and imagine the dawn's first light, revealing new sands, new temples, and new feline sovereigns in strange lands. You slip through the heavy bronze gates of the royal court as mid-morning heat shimmers off limestone walls, and find yourself in a hushed hall, where scribes in fine linen scroll through papyri with restless quills. The murmur of officials rises and falls like distant tides, punctuated by the soft padding of cats' paws on polished stone. In this chamber, words are power and cats have laws to protect their whiskers. You probably won't escape without at least one bureaucrat glowering at you for tracking paw prints on the Persian rugs. But that's part of the intrigue. A slender scribe unfurls a royal decree across a low table. Hieroglyphs stamped with the pharaoh's seal forbid anyone from harming a cat, under penalty of death. A mainstream fact. By the reign of Amenhotep III, circa 1388-1351 BCE, laws forbade cat exportation and prescribed capital punishment for cat killers, reflecting cats' vital role in society. You lean closer, fingers hovering above the papyrus, as if to scratch its back like you would the tabby at home. Historians still argue whether these edicts were driven by genuine reverence, or exploited to consolidate the pharaoh's control over provincial governors. Around you, temple-trained cats slink beneath scribe desks, their collars jingling like miniature anklets. Fringe rumor claims some collars contained tiny poison capsules to protect the royal felines from kidnappers. An unproven trick whispered among palace guards. Modern conservators find no trace of such capsules in cat burials, but the idea of a feline spy ring carrying secret antidotes adds a delicious pinch of danger to your day. You follow a procession of petitioners, farmers, merchants, and even a jittery young dancer, each clutching small statuettes of Bastet or bowls of milk as offerings. They kneel before the high scribe, each whispering tales of cats saved from snake bites, mice infestations averted, or simply stolen lovesick pets reclaimed. The scribe dips his reed brush into ink and inscribes each petition. You probably won't manage that level of paperwork in your own life, but you marvel at these tales, imagining dusty scrolls groaning under the weight of feline grievances. A gold-inlaid pigeon carrier drops a fresh message at your feet. It's a missive from a distant province. Governor Khufu reports a surge in clandestine cat exports. We request immediate enforcement. You stand, scroll in hand as the high scribe motions you to translate. The papyrus crackles beneath your fingertips. You recite, "He who harms an unprotected cat, let his heart be weighed against a feather and found lighter." Natural justice, you muse. Though you probably won't wade into philosophical debates about the afterlife this morning. Outside the hall, you pause by a carved relief depicting an official solemnly delivering a bound criminal to the docks. A cat stands perched on his shoulder, tail aloft in triumph. Mainstream inscriptions show that thieves caught smuggling cats were often exiled or impaled, traded as slaves to finance the state. Yet historians still argue whether punishments were applied evenly across classes or reserved for commoners while aristocrats paid hefty fines, or simply looked the other way. You wander into an antechamber, stacked with papyrus scrolls, sealed in reed containers. A bored clerk yawns as he shuffles through the backlog of cases, stamping each with the pharaoh's signet. You slip a finger under the lid of one container and withdraw a crumpled petition. We implore the blessed pharaoh to pardon Eshti, our village's only mouser, accused of eating fancy goods. The irony makes you grin. A cat defending grain is beloved, but a cat raiding courtiers' pastry racks risks the lash. Fringe tales insist that some village cats received secret royal pardons sealed in invisible ink. No proof, but a perfect bedtime story for cat lovers. You retreat to a cool colonnade, where tame lions once lounged in Bastet's honor, now replaced by panthers, whose owners paid steep tributes for the privilege. A sleek black panther regards you from the shade, tail flicking with bored elegance. You probably won't mistake that panther for a cat, though locals joke that any feline over 40 pounds falls under the same decrees. You lean against a column carved with the edict's opening lines, feeling the grooves beneath your palm. In a distant alcove, you observe a small drama. A merchant pleads for leniency on behalf of his wife's cat, accused of scratching a noble's cheek. The noblewoman, eyes cold as blue faience, demands recompense. 5 jars of perfumed oil and a dozen silken scarves. The merchant's shoulders slump as the scribe tallies the fines. Fringe gossip suggests nobles sometimes bred fighting cats for sport, ignoring edicts by claiming trained defense, a loophole that historians still argue may have undermined royal authority. You drift toward the courtyard beyond, where a raised platform holds public readings of new laws. A herald intones in deep, resonant tones, "Let no man deliver violence unto the mistress of the hearth." Onlookers, farm hands, scribes, guards, listen raptly as temple cats slip through the crowd, weaving between sandals. You stoop to scratch a black and white cat behind the ears. It purrs deeply as though thanking you for recognizing its right to live. Mainstream records note that public readings bolstered illiterate commoners' understanding of cat protection, ensuring the laws reached far-flung villages. Suddenly, a clatter echoes. A young scribe drops his inkpot, sending droplets of deep blue across the marble. A startled cat darts through the spill, leaving blue-pawed footprints. You stifle a laugh. Cats have always found fun in disorder. Legal proclamations be damned. You probably won't see that in a modern courtroom, but it feels fitting here. As the reading concludes, officials unfurl a new decree. Merchants trading in cat furs face confiscation of goods and boats. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Silk traders, oil merchants, and leather workers all adjust their stances. You recall the granary cats from Section 3, the palace kittens from Section 4, and the smugglers of Section 7, and realize how every chapter of feline society intertwines through lore. Historians still argue whether these regulations effectively curb smuggling or simply drive it deeper underground. You walk away from the platform, papyrus scroll tucked under your arm. The courtyard buzzes with activity. A few cats wrangle pigeons in a chase that sends startled birds fluttering into palm fronds. You lean against a stone balustrade, scanning the mosaic floor littered with tiny paws and ink drips. A cool breeze stirs distant laughter, scribes recounting their pet escapades, traders calculating fines, and guards marveling at cats' fearless audacity. You step into the sunlit plaza beyond, the hum of legal Paw-tection echoing in your mind. The final stray cat brushes past your robe, whiskers tickling your ankle like a feather dipped in ink. You look down and murmur, "Long live the cat laws," and the cat offers a solemn blink in response. A royal endorsement of sorts. As you exit through the towering gates, you feel the weight of written laws and unwritten pacts, woven together in every feline breath. The cats of Egypt, once simple mousers, are now legal entities bound by royal decree, walking through halls of power, with their rights as sacred as any priest's. You step back onto sun-warmed stone, the edicts carried in your heart, ready for whatever section lies ahead. You wander through the dusty tents of the military encampment, as dawn's gold leaks into a sky, still brushed with violet, and soldiers prepare for today's maneuvers. Sandals scrabble against packed earth, while the distant clang of metal punctuates the murmur of officers. Yet amid the human bustle, cats pad unconcerned, weaving through ranks as if they hold secret commissions of their own. You probably won't catch every silent step, but these feline omens speak volumes to those who listen. A mainstream fact: ancient Egyptian armies kept cats at their camps because soldiers believed feline behavior foretold fortunes in battle. If a cat refused to eat, that day's engagement might lead to defeat. If it stretched and yawned, victory was nigh. Historians still argue whether this superstition shaped real tactical decisions or simply offered comfort in the face of war's chaos. You pause beside a black and white mouser, curled on a javelin rack. It yawns, tongue pink as rose petals, and you feel a thrill. Could Rome's chariots soon bow to Egypt's standards? Nearby, a fringe tail circulates among the guards. During a skirmish near the Libyan border, a cat leapt before the pharaoh's chariot, intercepting a stray arrow, an act so miraculous it was inscribed on bronze plaques. No surviving chronicles confirm this event, and skeptics note that arrow wounds often missed living targets. Yet the story endures. Historians still argue whether it was a Leviticus selfless sacrifice by the cat, or mere poetic license by court poets eager to glorify feline heroism. You follow a column of feline sentinels along the camp's perimeter wall, their tails high in the air, creating a living banner of striped flags. Soldiers salute as each cat passes, fingers brushing whiskers in silent benediction. A lieutenant kneels and offers fish scraps, and the cat accepts with regal nonchalance. You probably won't see such formality outside Egypt, but here the bond between soldier and cat runs deep, a shared reliance in the crucible of war. A messenger dashes past, clutching a scroll sealed with black wax. He collapses into the shade of a tent, handing the dispatch to a scribe who reads it by torchlight. You edge closer and catch a phrase, "Hold position until Bastet's moon rises." Even military orders invoke the goddess, a mainstream testament to how inseparable cats and war were in Egyptian psyche. Historians still argue whether invoking Bastet's name in battle was strategic morale boosting or genuine religious ritual among rank-and-file troops. You step into the command tent, its interior lined with painted canvases depicting Pharaoh's conquests, chariots stomping through dust, enemy shields splintered. At the center, a cat-shaped standard stands in a gilded holder, banner beneath its paws bearing the pharaoh's cartouche. A weathered general regards you, brows lifted in a silent invitation. "Watch the omens," he murmurs. "They whisper tomorrow's fate." You nod, though your eyes keep drifting to the silent mouser sleeping on his boots, as though guarding both valor and vulnerability. Outside, horns call for assembly. Rows of archers stand at the ready, their eyes flicking to the cats who strut behind them. A rogue kitten darts between stolid ranks, scattering quivers and causing a volley of curses and laughter. Amid the chaos, you notice something remarkable. No soldier moves to harm or shoo away the intruder. Mainstream military records confirm that injuring a cat, even by accident, could result in censure, a boon for these tiny informants. Historians still argue whether such strict enforcement applied equally across all units or unraveled under the stress of actual combat. You find shelter beneath a mangled shield propped against a sandbag barricade, watching as cats patrol the front lines with unerring confidence. One sleek grey Tom strides past with a rat dangling from his jaws, his prize laid at the feet of a wounded spearman. The spearman's lips twitch into a grin as he accepts the rodent, tossing it into a brazier to cook later. Fringe rumour suggests this was seen as a good luck offering. Soldiers believed sharing their meal with a cat ensured safe passage through enemy fire. Modern scholars remain skeptical, and historians still argue whether such gestures were widespread or local traditions. A sudden shout echoes. Enemy scouts at dawn's light. Drums rattle as archers snap to posture, and chariots rumble to life. You feel your pulse surge, hands tightening around the hilt of an imaginary spear. Yet amid the mounting tension, you catch sight of a white cat, perched atop a camel's hump, tail flicking like a pendulum. It stares at the horizon, unblinking. Soldiers whisper, if the cat blinks twice, expect 3 waves of enemy advance. If not at all, perhaps they'll retreat. You hold your breath. 1 blink, 2. The cat blinks again. 3 total. Soldiers nod, checking ropes and shields. You probably won't trust any other augury after this. As the sun creeps over the eastern dunes, a caravan of chariots races toward the camp's gates. The cats slink into shadows, yet you feel their watchful presence even as battle lines form. Mainstream accounts note that cat-guided omens could shift entire strategies. Soldiers might delay an attack or send scouts based solely on feline behavior. Historians still argue whether these practices were tactical gamesmanship or heartfelt faith among the legionnaires. You lean against a battered tent flank, drawing comfort from the cat's composure amid human chaos. Their eyes, reflective like burnished bronze, seem to measure courage itself. You step forward as a feline sentinel brushes past your leg, muzzle firm and urgent as though offering a final blessing before the fray. You tuck a scrap of linen into your belt, scented faintly of catnip and dust. A command rises. Advance. The camp erupts into disciplined chaos, horns, war cries, the thrum of wheels. Yet the cats remain unmoved, regal proxies of calm in a storm of steel. You retreat to the command tent's flap, heart hammering, but mind oddly serene from the cat's silent counsel. As you watch armored pharaohs' warbands spill into the desert dawn, you wonder if the true power lies not in bronze shields or sharpened arrows, but in those quiet paws and unspoken omens that shaped Egypt's battlefield spirits. You probably won't reconsider the role of cats in war again. They are more than companions or mousers, they are living barometers of fate, guiding empires with a flick of a tail. You slip through the low doorway of a mud brick home, the afternoon sun softening the ochre walls to a gentle glow. Inside, the air carries a warm sweetness, freshly baked flatbread cooling on a woven tray, and the faint perfume of pressed flax linen. A cluster of cats lounges across rush-woven mats, each one embodying a lesson in patience, mischief, and oddly enough, flea diplomacy. You probably won't master their art of nonchalance in a single visit, but you're here to learn. A sleek tortoiseshell settles by your feet, tail curling in gentle arcs. You sit on a low stool, back straight but relaxed, and feel its eyes tracing your movements like an invisible metronome. Mainstream accounts tell us that by the New Kingdom, circa 1550-1070 BCE, Egyptian households of even modest means kept at least 1 cat for companionship and pest control. Their presence was so woven into daily life that common folk attested to cats' ability to calm restless children simply by curling in their laps. Historians still argue whether cats were valued more for their affection or for their practical prowess at eradicating vermin. Beside you, a pale buff cat bats at a loose reed from the mat. An unintentional game of feline rugby. You lean forward to capture the reed, but a quick paw intercepts your hand. Missed it, you muse, chuckling quietly in the hushed room. The cat flicks the reed away and eyes you with a look that says, "I taught you that." Fringe rumor claims some Egyptian cats trained humans to jump through hoops, literally by hiding behind benches and pouncing when prey. That's you tried to sneak a pet. No surviving letters confirm such elaborate schemes. but locals still tell the tale with a gleam in their eyes. A young mother sits across the courtyard entrance, weaving baskets of palm fronds. Her daughter gently strokes a charcoal-striped Tom's head, whispering secrets about school lessons and the day's gossip. You note how the cat lifts its chin, encouraging every stroke, an open demonstration of kneading, a behavior modern scientists link to ancestral nursing reflexes. But fringe storytellers claim kneading also marked territory with invisible scent glands, a secret code among felines. Historians still argue whether Egyptians recognized that scent-marking function, or simply enjoyed the rhythmic massage. The aroma of cooking lentils drifts from a plastered alcove. A cat pads in, nose twitching, and yawns so wide you glimpse its tiny, needle-sharp teeth. You probably won't suppress a yawn yourself. Sleepiness hangs in the room like a warm blanket. Ancient Egyptians believed cats' purring vibrations soothed lacerations and calmed fevered brows, so commonplace that healers sometimes placed a resting cat atop a patient's chest. Mainstream studies today confirm purr frequencies 25-50 Hz can promote tissue regeneration, but historians still argue whether Egyptians intentionally harnessed purring therapeutically, or simply noted its comforting effect. From the cooking area, the family's cat keeper ladles a bowl of fish stew into shallow pottery dishes. One plump cat edges forward, rouging its whiskers in savory steam, then delicately laps at the broth. You reach for a spoon, but the mother shakes her head with a teasing grin. That's for the mouser. You step back, head tilted. Mouser etiquette is a serious affair. Fringe lore insists that cats once taught children rabble-arousing tricks by knocking over clay lamps, then fled giggling into hidden nooks. No temple mural depicts that prank, but the jest still circulates around hearth fires. You perch on the dusty threshold, watching the cats patrol their territory like tiny emperors. One tuxedo cat slinks along the low walls, searching for crickets hiding in cracks. You recall the granary mousers from Section 3, and appreciate how these domestic cats refined the art of stealth inside walls instead of hulking sacks of grain. A mainstream archaeological find at Amarna revealed tiny cat bones beneath house floors, signifying tomb-buried companions rather than sacrificial offerings. Historians still argue whether those burials were driven by personal grief or assumed cat souls needed funerary rites. A stray kitten, no bigger than your palm, darts between your legs and swats at your sandal strap. You step carefully to avoid stepping on tiny paws, but the kitten bounces back, triumphant. "All right, you win," you whisper, and it responds with a single satisfied meow. Fringe storytellers say kittens in ancient times were taught by priestesses in secret ceremonies, presented to households as part of coming-of-age rites. No papyrus spells out that ritual, yet some families claim ancestral memory preserves it. Historians still argue whether any formal kitten gifting rites ever existed outside temple walls. In a corner, a slender black cat stretches luxuriously across a reed mat, claws extending and retracting in slow motion. You reach out tentatively, and it leans into your palm, eyes half closed in blissful surrender. You probably won't convey the nuance, but that gentle stretch, fur rippling like silk, was celebrated in New Kingdom poetry as a symbol of home's serenity. One sonnet even likened a cat's stretch at sunrise to the opening of lotus blossoms. Yet historians still argue whether such poetic metaphors were inspired by actual observation or later poetic license. A playful tabby launches itself off a low bench, skidding across packed earth with a flourish that sends a cloud of dust drifting upward. You sneeze, blinking through the fine haze. A mother blows across the bench's edge, scattering stray grains and reminding you that this home is both workshop and sanctuary. You laugh softly. Cats bring chaos even into quiet hearths. A light joke for your conscience. If household cats ran a bureaucracy, every decree would be "Thou shalt not disturb my nap." The daughter skips forward with a reed basket, spilling dates that clatter like tiny bells. Instantly, a ginger cat darts in, gobbling them one by one until only pitted husks remain. You groan with playful exasperation. "Date burglar," you tease, and the cat flicks its tail as if claiming a victory lap. Fringe rumor claims some cats once learned to open storage bins by manipulating wooden latches, a skill later adopted by temple thieves to sneak cat offerings. No court record prosecutes a feline, but the rumor endures. Historians still argue whether any cats ever faced official charges for culinary crimes. The mother invites you to sample fresh goat's milk as an olive brown cat laps gracefully nearby. You take a sip, cool cream sliding down your throat. You probably won't import goat's milk brand later, but at this moment it tastes like community and quiet trust. Mainstream evidence shows that fermented milk was offered to cats in winter months to supplement lean times. Yet historians still argue whether intentional fermentation for feline health was practiced or discovered by happy accident when milk soured in broken jars. A slight breeze drifts through the open doorway, carrying the distant call to prayer from a nearby temple. The cats rise, eyes flicking toward the horizon, muscles coiled in readiness. You feel their tension ripple through the room. A final lesson in attentive presence. See? In this simple home, cats rule with soft paws and sharp minds, teaching you that patience demands stillness, mischief breaks monotony, and flea diplomacy. Yes, flea diplomacy means negotiating peace between irritated fur and itchy skin. You muster the courage to scratch behind your ear, imagining a flea-bitten cat's relief. You probably won't host fleas for sport, but you grasp the Syrian tan cat's subtle negotiation when it shifts just enough to catch an inhalation of your scent, then settles again in royal comfort. As the sun dips toward late afternoon, the cats drift away to sunlit patches on the courtyard floor, their lessons complete. You rise, brushing imagined lint from your linen, heart warmed by the quiet intimacy shared. You step through the low threshold, carrying with you the rhythm of domestic life, where every purr is a promise, and every whisker twitch a conversation unspoken. You stand at the edge of a freshly dug trench, the morning sun sharp against the desert's pale face, as archaeologists dust away centuries of sand to reveal a hidden world beneath. Around you, trowels click against brittle pottery shards, and handfuls of dry earth tumble to expose neat rows of tiny cat coffins. You probably won't believe your eyes at first. Hundreds, maybe thousands of diminutive sarcophagi, arranged in silent solidarity. But this is one of Egypt's most astonishing secrets, the cat cemeteries of Bastet and Saqqara. Each coffin is carved from limestone or painted pottery, barely larger than two hands cupped together. As you crouch, a slender armored cat figurine lies nestled atop one lid, its painted eyes still gleaming with protective intent. Fringe rumor insists these figurines contained spells to guide each cat's care through the underworld, but no papyrus has surfaced to confirm the exact incantations. Historians still argue whether the figurines served purely decorative roles or encoded sacred texts lost to time. You slip a finger beneath the rim of a coffin and lift the lid. Inside rests a delicate feline skeleton, curled into a perfect nap pose, as though still chasing dreams of sunlit rooftops. Mainstream osteological studies show that many of these cats were mature adults, averaging 5 to 7 years old, an impressive lifespan in an era when average human life barely surpassed 30. Yet despite their age, many skeletons bear the slightest curvature in their leg bones, suggesting they shared common ailments with humans, perhaps arthritis from chasing desert vermin. Historians still argue whether these cats were offered for sacrifice en masse, or were cherished household pets laid to rest alongside pilgrims' prayers. Nearby, a line of clay amphorae stands like silent sentinels. Each amphora contains small votive mummies, tightly wrapped bundles, so light they almost float when lifted. A slender stela inscribed with Bastet's name marks the boundary between feline flesh graves and these miniature votive offerings. Fringe lore proclaims that pilgrims purchased these tiny mummies as love tokens presented at home altars to ensure fertility and household harmony. Yet, excavators note that most amphorae cluster near temple gateways, suggesting a transactional ritual. You pay your dues, receive your bundle, and seal the bargain with fate. Scholars still debate how transactional these rites became, pious devotion or entrepreneurial scheme. The dig supervisor beckons you closer to an adjacent pit, deeper and broader. Here lie stone coffins carved in the likeness of recumbent cats, complete with painted whiskers and gilded collars. Some have hieroglyphic inscriptions reading, "Beloved Guardian," or "Mistress of my heart." A fringe anecdote suggests that inscribing personal messages on these coffins bound the deceased cat and its owner in eternity, but mainstream epigraphy finds no personal names, only generic titles. Historians still argue whether the inscriptions were standardized by temple workshops or allowed individual customization at a premium. You move to a shaded tent where a cluster of researchers examines fragments under magnifying lenses. One holds a tiny bronze amulet shaped like a cat paw, still warm from being unearthed. It bears faint traces of enamel, cyan, gold, and ochre, now faded like memories. You probably won't slip this amulet onto your necklace, but you cradle it as though holding a heartbeat. Osteometric analysis of nearby bones shows cats often received these amulets placed inside coffins as talismans, believed to ward off scorpions in the underworld. Historians still argue whether the practice was localized to Memphis or spread throughout the Delta via priestly networks. Outside the tent, the trench widens into a gentle slope, where toppled statues lie half buried in sand. A once majestic statue of a life-size cat, now fractured at the ankles, bears traces of temple paint, emerald green eyes, a lapis mane, and gold flecks on its back. You brush away sand from its base to reveal a dedication to Bastet, daughter of the sun. Fringe tales claim the statue once stood at the temple gate of Bubastis, where pilgrims stroked its paws for blessings. Mainstream archaeology posits it collapsed in a flood or quake, broken in antiquity and never restored. Historians still argue whether its fragments were deliberately buried or simply discarded in a ritual closing of the sacred precinct. As you descend back into the pit, your foot brushes against dozens of small clay cats, funerary models rather than actual remains. Their hollow forms once housed offerings of barley or milk, symbolic sustenance for the journey beyond death. You pick one up. Its head is cracked, tail missing, but its body still echoes with the faint residue of natron. Fringe rumor says breaking a clay cat before burial transferred a living cat's sin to the model, sparing the real creature from misdeed. No direct evidence supports this, yet modern residue analysis reveals traces of sweet oils inside some vessels, perhaps an ode to the feline's favorite delicacies. Historians still argue whether the oils were offerings for the cats or simply lubricants to seal lids. You pause at a narrow corridor of burials where each cat rests beside a human votive shard, a piece of pottery inscribed with a family name. The implication is clear. These cats carried their owners' hopes into eternity. Mainstream anthropology recognizes the buried pairings as a testament to the emotional bonds ancient Egyptians felt with their pets, a sentiment not often afforded to other animals. Historians still argue whether such burials indicate formal adoption of cats into family units or simply ritual proximity in temple lands. Above ground, the dig team pauses for midday shade and tea. You sip mint-infused hot water and lean against a tripod, notebook in hand. Workers carry small baskets of remains to a sorting table, where bones are catalogued by radius, humerus, and vertebra. You marvel at how meticulous the process is. Each fragment a fragment of history. Fringe whispers say some bones were sold to collectors in Alexandria as sacred relics, fueling a black market for feline antiquities. Modern regulations forbid such trade, but historians still argue how much of the cemetery stock was lost to early plunderers. In a quieter corner, a conservator carefully mends shards of a painted coffin lid, ochre stripe, black paw silhouette, and a single green eye. The pieces fit together like a puzzle, and you watch as the image of a poised cat flickers back to life. You probably won't master restoration skills today, but you feel a surge of reverence for the artisan whose hands carved this likeness thousands of years ago. As afternoon wanes, you step back to survey the entire cemetery, staggered rows of cat burials stretching into the horizon, a testament to devotion on an unimaginable scale. The sun casts long shadows, transforming each coffin into a silent sentinel guarding ancient mystery. You realize that these were not mere offerings, they were living memories, stepping stones between human and divine, animal and afterlife. You gather your things and prepare to leave, but a soft murmur reaches your ears, an assistant reading aloud from a fragmentary papyrus found in the trench. The words falter where ink has faded, yet one line emerges clearly: "Let every cat rest where she walked, for in death she guides us still." You exhale, the phrase settling in your chest, like a prayer. As you climb from the pit, you carry with you a small fragment of painted pottery, just a sliver but enough to hold destiny. You tuck it into your satchel and stand in the golden haze of dusk. The cat cemetery behind you hums with ancient silence, and you know that in uncovering these graves you've touched a secret life as sacred as any temple rite. You awake before dawn to the hollow groan of ox carts rolling along a sun-cracked caravan trail, the horizon a smear of lavender and rose. You trudge beside a line of camel caravans laden with cedar beams and copper ingots, the air thick with dust and anticipation. Beside you, a lean Egyptian Mauser named Amun-Por balances on the lead camel's hump, tail flicking like a silent metronome. You probably won't survive this journey without at least one cough from the dust, but these cats know every hidden bazaar and bribe along the way. As the caravan snakes through rocky passes, you glimpse merchants unrolling fine linen from Thebes and barrels of salted fish from the Nile Delta, all destined for Mediterranean ports. Amun-Por leaps down to chase a scuttling gecko across sun-baked stones, his reflexes honed by centuries of rodent warfare. A mainstream fact: by the 8th century BCE, Egyptian cats were prized cargo on trade ships, their presence so valued that some merchants carved custom crates for feline comfort, complete with woven mats and tiny water flasks. Historians still argue whether those crates resembled miniature cat palaces, or simple reed baskets adapted from everyday cargo. You pause at an oasis, where cooling waters murmur against palm roots and the scent of fresh dates mingles with camel sweat. Cats from neighboring Bedouin tribes gather here too, smaller, dune-furred cousins with tufted ears and sand-matched coats. They sniff at your party's cats, tails quivering in cautious greeting. Fringe rumor says desert cats and Nile cats once held secret midnight councils at such oases to negotiate territorial pacts, but no scroll has surfaced to confirm who paid the bribes or offered the extra fish. Scholars still debate whether these interspecies encounters shaped feline genetics across regions or simply inspired travelers' tall tales. You trudge on toward the edge of a thirsty plateau where the trail converges with a river ford. Here, Egyptian cats, pampered on palace thresholds, meet hardy Levantine cats bred for speed. A merchant from Tyre greets you, his cloak embroidered with seafoam green dolphins, and presents a gift, a lavender sachet-sized pouch of dried catnip. For safe passage, he grins and sprinkles a pinch into Amun-Por's path. The cat's whiskers quiver, as if snorting invisible incense. Then he prowls ahead, tail cocked in approval. You probably won't find catnip in every port, but the mere promise of its scent spurs feline legs into energetic strides. As you ford the shallow river, you feel pebbles shift beneath your sandals, and cats leap from rock to rock, unwavering. The water gurgles around their paws, and you taste a cool splash on your fingertips. Fringe lore suggests that cats baptized in foreign waters gained immunity to local poisons and snake venoms, yet modern toxicologists find no genetic markers for such miracles. Historians still argue whether these baptismal crossings were ritualized events, complete with incantations or casual splashes to cool off on blistering days. Beyond the ford lies the trading city of Ugarit, its walls draped in carpets and its streets alive with bartered languages. You navigate through stalls hawking frankincense from Punt and resin from Lebanon, cats weaving between sandalwood crates and silk bolts. A well-to-do merchant offers you spiced wine and boasts of the latest fashion. Collars, inlaid with Tyrian purple dye, imported from murex snails. You slip a finger beneath Amun-Por's collar, a braided band of ochre leather, and admire the craftsmanship. A mainstream observation notes that purple dye was so costly it marked high status. Cats wearing it symbolized both wealth and divine favor. Historians still debate whether dyed collars were common enough to influence local dyeing techniques, or remained exclusive to royal imports. In the market's heart, cats cluster around fish stalls, their eyes gleaming at fillets of amberjack and sea bass. You stoop to stroke a marmara-bred kitten, smaller and sleeker than its Egyptian cousins, fur like wet sand. It chirrups at you, a brisk reminder that this is business, not charity. Fringe gossip claims travelers once bartered kittens for grapes, trading feline companionship for afternoon feasts. No tariff registers such exchanges, but some vineyards still adorn their walls with cat reliefs as homage. Scholars still argue whether kitten for fruit swaps occurred or whether they remain whimsical stories told at taverns. As dusk settles, you and Amun-Por join the throng boarding a Phoenician galley, bound for Cyprus. The hull creaks beneath your weight, and oil lanterns swing overhead, casting dancing shadows on coiled ropes. Cats from distant ports huddle in straw-lined crates, their mews forming a lullaby to the rocking waves. You probably won't sleep through the voyage without fatigue, but the promise of new harbours keeps your heart alight. Under a crescent moon, you stand on deck, wind tugging at your tunic. A moon paw pads beside you, gaze fixed on a flicker of phosphorescence in the wake. A reminder that the sea itself is alive. Fringe whispers tell of cats who slipped overboard, swum to nearby islands, and founded feral colonies that still thrive among olive groves. Modern genetic surveys of Mediterranean island cats reveal traces of Egyptian haplotypes, but historians still argue whether those lineages arrived through official trade or clandestine stowaways. The galley's prow cuts through calm waters as you travel beneath constellations unfamiliar to Nile watchers. You lean against the rail, letting the gentle sway calm your mind, and feel Amun-Paul's purr resonate through your thigh, a comforting hum that bridges worlds. In cramped cabins below, cats curl into baskets rimmed with sea-soaked driftwood, dreaming of sunlit temples they may never see again. When dawn blushes the sky, the galley nudges a rock-strewn shoreline of Cyprus. Fishermen in linen crouch by their nets, casting curious glances at the newcomers. You step onto pebble beaches, sand brushing your ankles, and watch cats step down as though claiming new domains. A local elder watches too, stroking a silver cat's flank, and you exchange nods. Two travellers bound by whiskers and wanderlust. You probably won't map every trade route, but you've traced feline footprints across empires, from Nile granaries to island coves. You follow your guide into a courtyard lined with terracotta amphorae, each marked with an imported cat symbol, a silent signature of value. Merchants hurry to unload crates of cedar, olives and wine, while cats patrol the edges, eyes scanning for vermin among the barrels. A mainstream trader's log notes that cats were credited with protecting valuable cargo against mice, preserving olive oil and grain on long voyages. Historians still argue whether the economic impact of cats in trade was quantified or simply assumed as part of every merchant's toolkit. You wander through a stone pavilion where Tyrian scribes debate stockpiles and tolls. Cats lounge atop woven mats, their presence a constant reminder that, in this interconnected world, feline grace was a universal currency. You reach out to scratch Amun-Paul behind the ear. He leans in, whiskers brushing your palm, and you feel the ancient threads of commerce and companionship intertwine in one gentle purr. As afternoon wanes, you pack your satchel with a fragment of purple-dyed leather from your cat's collar and a small pouch of Cyprus-grown catnip, a souvenir of tail-woven diplomacy. You step into a galley again, bound for new ports, knowing that each harbour will borrow a whiskered envoy and send its own ambassadors in return. You probably won't stay in any one place for long, but wherever you go, the secret life of ancient Egyptian cats travels with you, an unbroken line of purrs bridging continents and centuries. You slip through the heavy wooden doors of the temple archives, the scent of papyrus and aged ink wrapping around you like a warm cloak. Torches flicker in niches carved into sandstone walls, casting dancing shadows across rows of scrolls and ritual implements. Overhead, painted beams depict Bastet in both regal lioness form and sleek domestic guise, her eyes forever watchful. You probably won't escape the subtle tug of political entanglements here, but that's exactly why you're drawn in to witness how feline divinity and earthly power intertwine. Slowly you weave between tall shelves where priests in saffron robes pore over tax ledgers and temple offerings. Their whispered voices rise and fall like distant chants, punctuated by the soft tinkle of cat collars echoing through archways. A tabby with an intricately inlaid gold collar scampers across an alcove, pausing to inspect a stack of clay tokens used for tallying grain. Mainstream records show that temples dedicated to Bastet received up to 10% of local grain harvests as tithe, reflecting the goddess's role in fertility and prosperity, and swelling temple coffers with staggering wealth. Historians still argue whether these contributions funded public works like canal maintenance or simply lined the pockets of high priests. You tuck a curl of papyrus under your arm and step onto a raised dais, where petitioners once knelt to plead for relief from drought or disease. The dais's surface is worn smooth, polished by countless sandals and cat paws alike. Fringe lore maintains that a particular basalt pillar here was imbued with Bastet's spirit, allowing cats to whisper divine endorsements into prayers. No surviving temple hymn mentions such whispering, but you trace faint claw marks near the pillar's base, evidence that the feline congregation took their duty seriously. A wizened priest gestures you forward, offering a shallow bronze dish of date wine. You lift it to your lips and sip, the sweet warmth filling your chest. Each draught is a memory of festival nights when temple politics pulsed through the city like a second Nile. You recall the Day of Whiskers procession from Section 2 when gilded cat effigies paraded through streets lined with cheering crowds. That annual spectacle wasn't just devotion, it was a grand display of temple influence, showcasing the coffers of Bubastis and swaying local officials eager to share in the glory. Historians still argue whether the festival's primary aim was religious or political pageantry, but there's no denying its impact on civic authority. As you wander deeper, an open chamber reveals a council in session. High priests sit around a carved stone table, their expressions solemn. On each lap rests a cat, sleek black panthers, striped toms, and the occasional white queen. The cats watch with inscrutable eyes as scribes present proposals, grain tax adjustments, water distribution plans, and temple land expansions. A fringe anecdote claims that if a council cat stood and circled the table, it signified divine disapproval, forcing priests to redraft decrees. Modern scholars dismiss this as myth, yet records show several abrupt policy reversals on days when temple cats were unusually restless. Historians still argue whether those reversals reflected genuine divine counsel or internal power struggles masked as celestial will. You slip behind a pillar, heart fluttering as the council adjourns. Papers shuffle and cats stretch, tails arched like question marks. A young acolyte corners you with eager eyes and whispers, "We need someone to carry this decree to the governor's palace." You grasp the rolled document, its seal bearing Bastet's paw imprimatur. The weight of it feels heavy in your hand, more than parchment. It is a symbol of temple authority masquerading as divine command. You probably won't leave without picking up court gossip, but you're ready to play messenger in this intricate game. Stepping into a narrow hallway, you brush past a bronze statue of the pharaoh crowned by a lion-headed goddess, an artistic fusion of royal and feline might. You pause to run a fingertip along the statue's base. Carved hieroglyphs declare that, where Bastet's gaze falls, justice flows. A mainstream inscription confirms that Egyptian law often invoked deities to legitimize edicts, ensuring compliance through fear of displeasing gods. Yet historians still argue whether everyday citizens truly believed in these divine enforcements or complied out of practical caution. A gentle meow echoes from an inner antechamber. You push the door open to find a small gathering of temple scribes and local nobles seated on reed mats. Lined along the back wall are baskets filled with kittens earmarked for distribution. These kittens aren't mere pets, they're tokens of patronage. A noble family receiving a white kitten adorned with a silver necklet earns favor with the high priesthood, gaining access to exclusive feasts and prime farmland leases. Fringe gossip insists that some nobles paid secret bribes in grain to secure the choicest kittens, an unholy bargain blending devotion, politics, and personal gain. Scholars still argue how widespread that corruption was, but those kittens were undoubtedly powerful currency. You reach into one basket, lifting a tiny grey kitten whose fur feels like soft silk. It gazes at you, ears tilted, as if weighing your intentions. You cradle it, whispering, "Bear this decree well." The kitten purrs, a rumble vibrating in its chest. You recall the Granary purr lullaby from Section 3, a soothing symphony that stabilized grain storage, and marvel how that same vibration now cements political alliances. Outside the temple precinct, the air is thick with dust, and the distant calls of market vendors. You hail a temple chariot, its canopy embroidered with feline motifs, and settle in beside your small co-conspirators. As the chariot wheels clatter over cobblestones, you feel the kittens twitch in their baskets, responding to the motion with gentle mews. The guard at the palace gate salutes when he spots the cat emblem on your scroll. "By Bastet's will," he intones, voice trembling. "You may pass." You probably won't carry many messages, but this one feels momentous. A pact between temple and throne, brokered by whiskers and divine decree. Inside the governor's audience hall, tapestries of battle scenes hang opposite murals of domestic bliss, cats chasing mice in richly painted courtyards. The governor reclines on a raised dais, his robes heavy with embroidered lions. You kneel and present the scroll, kneading the kitten's fur for luck. The governor unseals the document and reads, "Let Bastet's temples expand their eastern holdings." and may peace reign across these lands." He nods, eyes narrowing as he absorbs the weight of the pardon decree. You feel the kitten squirm, perhaps sensing the gravity of its role. A fringe tale suggests that such decrees carried a hidden curse. Any official who opposed temple expansion risked waking to find their household cats gone. No records confirm that vanishings were supernatural, but nobles did report missing pets after political spats. Historians still argue whether those disappearances were engineered by priests or merely coincidental. With the decree accepted, you exit under a canopy of date palms, clutching your furry envoy. Bystanders bow as you pass, unsure whether to honor you or the kitten you bear. You probably won't experience such reverence again, but you savor the moment. The temple's power, channeled through feline intermediaries, has moved the levers of governance, proof that cats were more than house pets or mouses. They were instruments of statecraft. As the sun sinks low, you return to the temple steps and watch the kittens scamper back to their baskets, tails flicking in quiet triumph. The high priests offer you fresh honeyed wine in brass goblets, toasting your success. You raise your cup and murmur to Bastet's cunning ambassadors, and the assembly echoes the toast, each voice warm with admiration. The kittens purr in unison, a gentle chorus that seems to bless the pact sealed this day. You step away into the cooling dusk, arms empty but heart full of whispered alliances and cat-scented secrets. In ancient Egypt, politics and Purrs were bound together so tightly that one could not move without the other. You probably won't find that in any modern senate. But here, in the hush of stone and scroll, feline divinity crowned the rulers of both hearts and kingdoms. You awaken in a drafty stone keep perched on a misty crag, the clang of iron portcullis echoing through torchlit corridors as you trudge toward the great hall. Rain spatters against narrow arrow slits, and the scent of peat smoke hangs heavy in the air. Here in medieval Europe, centuries after Egyptian cats first crossed the Mediterranean, their desert-bred descendants have become creatures of legend, half divine guardians and half sinister familiars. You probably won't escape rumor without raising an eyebrow or two, but that's part of this nocturnal pilgrimage. In the flickering glow of a hearth, bards gather to trade tales. You settle on a low bench beside a fur-draped lord, offering your cloak to a sleek tabby that leaps across your lap. Populated by long-haired Angoras and lithe-mow hybrids, these cats sport ear tufts and bushy tails, unlike their Egyptian forebears, yet they carry an undeniable spark of desert spirit, a mainstream fact. By the 12th century, trade routes from Cyprus and the Levant brought Egyptian cats into European castles and monastic courtyards, where they quickly mingled with local felines to spawn new long-haired breeds prized for their beauty and pestiferous efficiency. Historians still argue whether these hybrids were intentionally bred for show or arose accidentally in shipboard rats' nests. But either way, they sparked fascination and suspicion in equal measure. You sip a cup of spiced wine as a travelling minstrel begins his ballad of the Panther Queen, a black cat said to have sheltered Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine during her imprisonment. According to fringe lore, the cat was no ordinary mouser, but a manifestation of Bastet herself, appearing on storm-tossed nights to ward off jailers. No contemporary chronicle confirms the apparition, yet medieval bestiaries recount a panther-like feline roaming castle corridors, leading prisoners to secret passages. Scholars still argue whether such tales reflect real animal encounters or allegorical warnings against tyranny. A court jester, a wiry man with painted cheeks, jumps up and pantomimes a cat opening a wine cask, sending the hall into peals of laughter. Even felines of Finisterre favor fermented grapes, he jests, sending your own lips twitching into a grin. A light joke. Imagine the royal court drafting a no under-the-table drinking decree for cats. Petty treason indeed. Yet behind the humour lies genuine respect. These imported cats reduced castle rat populations by as much as 60%, according to monastery records, improving food storage and reducing plague vectors. Historians still argue whether monastic veterinarians recognized this preventive effect, or simply celebrated cats for their theatrical midnight antics. The Lord's hound skulks under your bench, eyeing the tabby with suspicion. The cat arches its back and hisses, a warning shot across the hound's bow that sends the dog skittering away. Fringe gossip claims that cat-dog duels were staged for noble entertainment, a precursor to bear-baiting, though ecclesiastical edicts soon banned such cruel spectacles. Modern ethicists shudder at the idea, but medieval pranksters reportedly wagered favour on which animal would win the first round, rats not included. Historians still argue whether these matches were widespread festivals or merely the hyperbolic imaginings of satirists. A friar in grey robes shuffles forward, murmuring a blessing as he sprinkles holy water in the shape of a cat's paw on the hearthstones. Tales say that some European clergy adopted Bastet's protective aspect, invoking Sancta Fellas in prayers against pestilence. Mainstream ecclesiastical records show occasional saintly references to cats as guardians of grain. Though most religious orders frowned on pagan associations, scholars still debate whether such invocations were secret homages to older cults or merely poetic flourishes by over-imaginative monks. You prod the tabby with a finger. It burrows into the folds of your robe and emerges with a braid of wool clutched between its claws. It abandons the wool at the foot of the Lord's dais, a token of affection or a gag gift meant to unseat pomposity. A fringe narrative insists that cats delivered coded messages between medieval conspirators, smuggling tiny notes woven into their fur. No confession rolls mention such subterfuge, but historians still argue whether medieval spies exploited feline stealth or relied solely on human couriers. Beyond the hall, torchlight spills into a cobbled courtyard where cats of all hues parade before the gates. A procession led by a knight in polished armor carries an ebony cat, mounted on a velvet cushion, a royal offering to the bishop. Mainstream records note that crowned heads often presented exotic animals as diplomatic gifts. In 1223, King Hugh I of Cyprus sent 12 Siamese-type cats to King Edward I of England, sparking a vogue for long-haired lapcats in English courts. Yet skepticism arose. Whispers claimed the cats carried scorpions in their cloaks, ready to strike disloyal nobles. Historians still argue whether such fears reflected genuine danger or courtly paranoia. I'm sure you won't forget the clang of hammered gates as they close behind the procession, sealing the cats within a ring of guards sworn to protect their precious cargo. A jester quips that these cats have better security than the crown jewels, a jest so sharp it draws uneasy smiles. Beyond the laughter, you note how cat guardianship forged alliances. Nobles who gifted cats secured trade privileges, and bishops who hosted them gained moral authority over superstitious parishioners. Scholars still argue whether these feline-fueled pacts shaped medieval politics more than marriages or mercenary contracts. A ring of torchbearers leads you toward the keep's great library, where illuminated manuscripts await. You step inside to find a scribe tracing a miniature cat perched atop a column, its tail curling into a treble clef. The scribe glances up, offering you a vellum icon of a glowing-eyed cat, meant to ward off ergot-induced hallucinations. Fringe rumor claims peasants smeared such icons on doorposts to protect livestock from witch-ridden nights. No plague treatise mentions the practice, but historians still argue whether these feline talismans were genuine folk remedies or merely decorative margins. At a high reading desk, you unroll a richly illustrated bestiary. Under the entry for Purrs Egyptus, the text describes a cat with eyes aflame, heart steadfast and loyalty unmatched. A marginal note warns, "Beware the witch who rides the night astride the black cat. Her claws guide storms." A light joke crosses your mind: witches would make terrible stable hands, given how cats scatter straw with every swirl of a broom. Yet these colourful entries reflect how Egyptian cats and their exotic mystique wove into European folklore. Historians still argue whether bestiary authors relied on travellers' tales or imported Arabic manuscripts for their feline fictions. You lean in to inspect ink-stained paws pressed into parchment margins, sneaky feline visits from the scribe's own tabby, perhaps motivated by a taste for fresh ink. Fringe anecdotes credit practiced monks who trained cats to inscribe prayers in hidden scripts, but no surviving palimpsest reveals such whispered prayers. Scholars still debate whether any medieval cat literally helped write manuscripts or simply lounged on them during long copying sessions. You gaze out over fog-shrouded fields where peasant cottages huddle like coal embers in the night. Somewhere in the distance, a calico perches on a thatch roof, surveying her domain with ancient calm. You probably won't chart every legend tied to these felines, but in this moment, you feel the pull of intertwined mythologies, the silent purr that connects pharaohs, pilgrims, kings, and commoners alike. As the hour grows late, you retreat to a stone window embrasure, tracing your fingertip over carved paw prints, etched for good luck. A stray white cat leaps onto the sill, offering a single blink, a final cat kiss sealing your place in legend. You offer a silent vow to carry these medieval tales onward, a whisper to future pilgrims who follow in your pawprint. You step into a gleaming laboratory humming with fluorescent light and the soft click of high-precision sequencers. Sterile workbenches gleam beneath rows of microscopes, and the air smells faintly of ozone and ethanol. Here, centuries of feline wanderings, those desert hunts of Section 5, the grand smuggling runs of Section 7, the medieval crossings of Section 14, are distilled into strands of DNA waiting to tell their stories. You probably won't follow every genetic marker, but you're here to witness science unravel the secret life of ancient Egyptian cats. A technician in a crisp lab coat extends a sample vial containing bone powder scraped from a cat mummy's femur. You hold it gingerly, dust motes dancing in the light like miniature stars. Mainstream fact: recent genomic studies show that domestic cats share 95.6% of their DNA with wild African wildcats. Felis sylvestris libica, confirming that early Egyptians domesticated local wildcats around 4,000 years ago. Historians still argue whether that domestication occurred in the Nile Delta's fertile banks, or upstream near Nubian trading posts. But these lab results narrow the debate to specific genetic signatures found in mummies from Saqqara and Abydos. You peer at a computer screen displaying colorful graphs of mitochondrial haplotypes, distinct genetic lineages passed down maternally. One cluster highlights DNA matching cats from the Levant coast, echoing the trade routes you traced in Section 3. Fringe rumor insists that a hidden haplotype links Egyptian cats to a fabled lost island kingdom, their genes carried aboard mythical ships lost to time. Modern scholars dismiss the idea. No matching sequences have surfaced in any coastal dig, but you can't help but smile at the romantic notion of cat explorers forging unknown seas. A beaker of staining dye bubbles on a hot plate, reminding you of the dye collars in Ugarat markets. You recall how Tyrian purple marked noble cats in Section 13. Now, in this chromosomal age, color gives way to code. A researcher points at a phylogenetic tree, lines branching like papyrus reeds, each node a mummified specimen, each leaf a modern street cat. One branch connects cats in Roman Britain to Egyptian lineages, affirming that cats shipped on Phoenician vessels, Section 7, seeded feline populations across Europe. Historians still argue whether those early cats interbred freely or remained isolated in castle courts, but the DNA doesn't lie. Those haplotypes survived. You probably won't see the sequencer's magnets in action, but you hear its rhythmic thrum, a lullaby of base pairs aligning. Nearby, a monitor flashes a quality score 30 dice coverage across ancient genomes, a level of precision unthinkable a decade ago. Fringe chatter among tech interns speculates that someday scientists might resurrect extinct wildcat traits. A genetic Jurassic Park for cats. Ethical debates rage. Would you welcome a saber-tooth-like mouser? Historians still argue over the moral implications of remixing ancient lineages, but for now, the team focuses on piecing together past migrations. You lean in as a bioinformatician, highlights a map with glowing dots. Ancient DNA samples radiating from Memphis to Mycenae, from Carthage to Constantinople. Each dot represents a cat's journey, a thread woven into human history. A mainstream conclusion: cats spread westward in two major pulses, first alongside Bronze Age trade, then during Roman expansion. Yet scholars still debate the timing and scale. Did cat dissemination mirror grain and olive exports, or follow mercenary movements and military campaigns? The map's gradients hint at both, but only more data can resolve the nuance. A soft beep signals a completed run, and you nearly jump, startled out of your reverie. You recall the purring concord of granary beams in Section 3, and the synchronous temple purrs of Section 2, now supplanted by synthetic molecules humming through sequencer tubes. A light joke crosses your mind. If cats could sequence humans' DNA, they'd probably find out why you feed them tuna instead of luxury kibble. The lab team laughs. They've heard stranger hypotheses. A lab manager presents a printed report showing genetic diversity indices. Egyptian cat lineages boast high heterozygosity, evidence that early breeders valued robust gene pools over uniform coat patterns. Fringe speculation credits this to Bastet's decree. Temple cats were rotated among granaries and palaces to prevent inbreeding, an early animal welfare regulation. Historians still argue whether such rotations were systematic policy or ad hoc temple practice. But the genetic data supports deliberate mixing. You inhale deeply, the sterile air tinged with breakthrough. This lab fuses DNA from dusty tombs with living alley cat samples gathered from Cairo's backstreets. A callback to Section 10 emerges. Domestic hearth cats may carry the same genes as noble palace lines, their lineage unbroken across millennia. A mainstream insight. Urban feral cats often show genetic continuity with ancient Egyptian lineages, suggesting that stray populations retained ancestral signatures despite modern admixture. Historians still debate how modern Nile Delta urbanization impacted that continuity, but the evidence glimmers like a well-polished carnelian bead. As you step away from the sequences, you feel a connection to every whisker ever traced in this lab, each genetic code a testament to cats' central role in human journeys. The team packages their data for global collaboration, ready to compare sequences with labs from Istanbul to Istanbul, the one in Turkey, not the palace. You probably won't join every consortium, but you leave knowing that science too is part of the secret life of ancient Egyptian cats. You exit into the late afternoon sun, the lab's cool order replaced by Cairo's vibrant chaos. Yet in your mind, the sequencer's hum lingers, a modern purr charting the paths of cats across empires. As you walk toward the crowded streets, you carry a USB drive brimming with ancestral echoes, proof that even the smallest cat can leave the largest genetic legacy. You wander back through the twisting alleys of mud brick houses, as dusk drapes the village in soft violet shadows, your sandals whispering against worn stone. Cats drift beside you like living brushstrokes, leopard-spotted cats from the Granary. Section 3, weaving past palace-bred royal kittens. Section 4, all converging here in a humble courtyard. A gentle breeze stirs date palm fronds overhead, carrying the scent of cooling sand and distant jasmine. You probably won't find a more peaceful union of ancient and modern, but this courtyard holds their timeless accord. Stepping through a wooden threshold scalloped with carved lotus motifs, you notice patchwork rugs laid out for supper, bowls of lentil stew, fresh flatbread, and drained goat's milk set against rough-hewn benches. Cats of every stripe pad among the dishes, tails curled in question mark salutes, each claiming a favorite spot. A lean tabby from the temple archives, Section 11, brushes your ankle, its purr rumbling like distant temple drums. You kneel by a low stone basin, dipping your fingers into water still glimmering from the last prayer's splashes. Fringe rumor holds that watering a courtyard at twilight invites Bastet's blessing, but no surviving scroll prescribes the ritual. Historians still argue whether such nightly ablutions were widespread or confined to temple precincts. Above, the sky softens to a gradient of lavender and rose. Slender palm silhouettes sway against the twilight. You crouch beside a granite fountain carved in the form of a recumbent cat, an echo of the feline cemetery's silent guards. Section 12, and watch water spill from its mouth in slender arcs. A mainstream fact. Egyptians often built courtyard fountains both for cooling and as ritual purity features, believing running water cleansed the spirit. Historians still debate whether cats were drawn to these fountains primarily for hydration or to perform symbolic pause washes before entering homes. Two kittens tumble across the flagstones, reenacting the palace playfights of Section 4 with airborne flips and startled mews. Their antics make you smile in the fading light, and you catch yourself chuckling softly in this ASMR-friendly hush. A light joke drifts to your mind. If these kittens had a playbook, it would be titled Feline Acrobatics for the Distracted. But even without a script, they choreograph their comedy flawlessly. You lean back against the courtyard wall, linen brushing stone, and feel the last warmth of the day seep into your robes. Nearby, a sleek black mouser descended from the Granary battalion in Section 3 prepares to patrol the perimeter. It pauses at a broken pot, leans in to sniff for hidden crickets, then flicks aside shards like a seasoned detective. You remember the nighttime hunts in the desert, Section 5, when cats tracked cobra and jerboa beneath a silver moon. Here, under a village moon, just as luminous, the stakes are smaller but no less sacred, ridding homes of pests, preserving grain, guarding hearth and home. You stand and join a small circle of children seated on braided mats, each cradling a kitten from the trade routes. Section 13. The children whisper secrets into tiny ears. School lessons, hopes for tomorrow, the day's missed cat treats. A fringe whisper says that whispering dreams to kittens helps them dream prophetic dreams for you. But most scribes dismiss this as bedtime fantasy. Historians still argue whether any prophetic kitten lore existed beyond playful nursery rhymes. The murmur of adult voices drifts from a low bench where elders discuss village news, the temple festival in Bubastis. Section 2, the legal decrees in the capital. Section 8, and the recent coastal arrivals from Cyprus. Section 13. Each story is punctuated by feline commentary, soft mews, contented purrs, or the occasional hiss at a wayward mouse. You nestle into the circle, savouring the warmth of shared memories and whispered histories. You probably won't weave such tales yourself after tonight, but you carry them forward in every purr and twitch of a tail. Above you, stars emerge, a handful, then a host, pinpricks of ancient fires shining through the cooling sky. One by one, cats lift their eyes, gazing upward as though acknowledging distant feline ancestors charting the heavens. A mainstream observation, Egyptians mapped constellations like Orion and Leo, attributing feline traits to celestial patterns. Historians still debate whether these mappings inspired cats' worship or cats inspired the star myths. But here in this courtyard, both earth and sky honor the same feline forms. A gentle hush falls as someone lights a single oil lamp in a carved niche. Its flame flickers, casting dancing shadows of whiskered faces on tumbled walls. You probably won't feel more at peace tonight, but this moment, the interplay of light, stone and fur feels suspended outside time. You close your eyes and breathe. The soft clink of collars, the murmur of water, the whisper of wind. Before you rise, you run a fingertip along the carved lotus petals, framing the fountain. An echo of every bas-relief you've seen on temple pillars. It's a callback to those silent guardians in the mountains. Section 5, and the lined hills of cemeteries. Section 12. You lay your hand gently atop a cat's head, feeling the small rise and fall of its purr, a living link across centuries. You open your eyes to meet its half-lidded gaze, and offer a silent promise to remember this shared twilight. A child passes you a cup of sweet wine, infused with pomegranate and mint, the same flavors traders valued centuries ago. You sip, lips tasting dusk itself. A bordering cat circles your feet in gratitude, then settles at your sandals, curling into a sleeping swirl. You probably won't move until morning light, lulled by purrs and murmured lullabies of wind-stirred palms. As the final orange glow ebbs from the horizon, you stand and brush dust from your robes. Cats stretch, arch their backs in synchronized yawns, then drift toward hidden nooks and woven baskets for their own rest. You follow them to the courtyard gate, pausing at the threshold to inhale the night's cool perfume, dust, incense reverberating from distant temples, and the sweet tang of catnip carried on the breeze. You step beyond the gate, leaving kitten footprints in whispered echoes behind you. The alley waits, quiet now, but you carry the courtyard's lullaby with you. The murmur of ancients, the brush of fur, the unbroken stream of purrs linking past and present. You probably won't return to this courtyard in body, but in heart and in the ache of tomorrow's dawn. You'll feel its gentle guardians watching over you until you meet again under soft moonlight. Now your pace slows to a gentle drift, each step measured and deliberate, as the night enfolds you in its calm embrace. The air, warm but tinged with cool desert breath, carries the soft susurration of distant palms swaying beneath a tapestry of stars. You feel the weight of the day's adventures settle in your chest like a well-worn cloak, comforting in its familiarity. Each breath you take tastes of ancient dust and flowering jasmine, an unobtrusive reminder that history and nature weave together in whispers rather than shouts. The memory of courtyard cats, sprawled on stone, curled in repose, guardians of hearth and heart, lingers like the last note of a melody fading into silence. In their quiet company you learn that every purr holds the promise of peace, that each tail's flick writes a story onto the canvas of evening. These stories settle in your mind as soft lantern light settles across a still room, painting warmth onto cool shadows. Night's hush invites you to ease into rest, each muscle releasing tension, each thought drifting on currents of gentle recall. There is no rush, no distant drumbeat urging you onward, only the measured tempo of your own heartbeat, syncopated by purring echoes. You are suspended between dream and waking, guided by whiskered guardians whose silent vigil never falters. Let go of all demands, all sharp edges of daylight. Allow the soft contours of memory to cradle you, weaving glimpses of palace kittens, desert hunters, and temple pilgrims into a lullaby. sung by countless paws. Sleep comes not as an interruption but as a natural continuation of this twilight reverie, a descent into quieter realms where every shade is gentler, every breath deeper. Now surrender to the hush. Feel the night enfold you. Each inhalation a soft caress, each exhalation a release into velvet dark. The cats rest, their silent blessing settles upon you like a woven blanket. In their company you need nothing more. Only the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of breath and the promise of dawn's first light to come, carrying new stories to dream.